begin with Senate Bill 584, Senator Razer's bill. Senator, welcome. Please feel free to begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Greg Razer, here to present Senate Bill 584. This bill would designate August 6th of each year as Chris Sifford Day in the state of Missouri. Chris was born on August the 6th, 1963, was a graduate of Puxico High School, Southwest Missouri State University. He worked his way up in government and became a senior staff member for Governor Mel Carnahan. Sadly, on October 16th of 2000, he was in the plane that took the life of him, Governor Carnahan, and Governor Carnahan's son, Randy. I think those of us who have ever worked on staff for an elected official, especially that high level, know that that is tremendous public service as well. And as is often the case when you have a high-profile person who passes away, the other people are sometimes forgotten, and we don't want to forget Chris and the contributions he made to the state of Missouri. Having said that, we have reached out to the Carnahan family, and this has the blessing of the former First Lady, Senator Jean Carnahan. With that, we have family members and people who knew Chris much more personally, and I'm going to let them speak to who he was as an individual.
Thank you, Senator. I'm happy you're honoring him in this way. I've heard such wonderful things. Any questions for Senator Razer? Seeing none, first witness in support, please come forward. Make sure you fill out a witness form.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Tyler Travers. I'm Chief of Staff to Senator Razer, and I'm here on behalf of the Sifford family today. Thank you to the committee for hearing this bill, and thank you, Madam Chair. My family always spoke really highly of Chris. I unfortunately was too young to know him when he passed away. I was just texting with his sister before this. And it's so odd working in this building now for nearly 5 years, and dozens of lobbyists bring up personal stories about him from 20 plus years ago, and no one can really speak a bad word about him. They speak highly of his public service and mainly his character. And I just quickly want to tell a story. Senator Razer and I were on the phone with a longtime best friend of Chris's earlier this year, Roy Temple, and he told us a story from 1993 during a great flood. The governor, first lady, the adjutant general, and Chris were in a helicopter around the Mississippi River, and the helicopter door blew off mid-flight in 1993. And Chris grabbed Roy's thigh, scared for his life. And later Chris joked that had that helicopter gone down, that would have been the worst way to die, because the headlines would have said, Governor, First Lady, and staff die in accident. And of course, surreally, that essentially happened 7 years later. So I really appreciate the committee hearing this bill, and take any questions if you have any. Oh, and I don't know if I said, but I'm Chris's cousin.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, any other witnesses here to testify in support?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Dr. Jerry Hobbs. I was the superintendent of Puxico, actually, in the time when Chris had passed away. And I can tell you that, you know, when I was hired there in July 2000, and that was one of the probably the most saddest days in my life as a school administrator. You know, I was very good friends of the family, and I can't tell you the numbers, you know, of stories I've heard about Chris and all the good things he's done, and about everybody, you know, both sides of the aisle love Chris, and it didn't make any difference what party you were in, but he was loved, and the family, you know, it was a terrible tragedy, and I say I was heartbroken for everybody, and I can say that it's been too long coming, and I thank the senator and you guys for considering this, because Chris is truly a fine person. I can't say a bad word about the guy. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Thank you. Any other witnesses testifying in support?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Ron Bear. I'm a registered lobbyist. I just want to go on the record in support of 584. Chris had a much longer effect on many of us over the years beyond his short life. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none? Any other witnesses testifying in support? Seeing none, any witnesses testifying in opposition? Good luck. Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes? Seeing none, Senator, any closing remarks?
I just appreciate you hearing this bill and appreciate what all of our staffs do for us. They work very hard, and I know Chris did as well.
Thank you. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 584. We'll now move to Senate Bill, is Senator Washington here yet? Oh, okay, would you grab her? And Senator Rehder. We'll have Senators Thompson, Rehder, and Washington present their bills together. And these are Senate Bills 579 and 595. And while they're getting ready, we'll go ahead and pause to take roll. Arthur, here.
Williams, Carter, Moon, Mosley.
Having established a quorum, we'll go ahead and hear Senate Bills 579 and 595. Senators, feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Senator Barbara Ann Washington, 9th District, Jackson County.
Senator Holly Thompson Rehder from Southeast Missouri.
And we're glad to come together today to present our respective bills to increase the information that we want the state to gather on our pregnancy-associated mortality review board. As you know, Missouri is in the bottom 7 in the nation for maternal mortality, and even lower for as it relates to African American women. This is actually Black Maternal Health Month, so thank you, Chair, for hearing that this week. This is Black Maternal Health Week. And so as we look at how folks are, the numbers and the way that we calculate who actually is dying and the reasons, we came together over the summer and decided that we wanted the Mortality Review Board to give some more data, because only with more accurate data could we actually take the governor's proposed $4.2 million and have an accurate study as to how we can alleviate ourselves so that Missouri can stop being the bottom of everything that we are. And this is something that's real important to us. I'm from an urban community. My family is mostly rural, and I'm obviously African American, and so it's very important to me. Senator Rehder is from the Boot Hill, which has a large number as well. So we wanted to study things like how much does race matter? How much does insurance and what type of insurance you have matter? How much does prenatal care matter? And we want to know exactly what those things are. We want to know by zip codes so that we can actually do a true study to see what is absolutely necessary so that we can bring the numbers down. So we already have the board. We just want to add additional information that the board requires.
And the level and timing of prenatal care is very important, and we need to know that. We need to know if a mother didn't start seeing a doctor until 6 months, or if she didn't, until 8 months, and to see how those outcomes, how that time frame of the prenatal care affected, how many of the deaths that we're seeing. And it's something that when Senator Washington and I looked at what we were gathering and then spoke to folks around the state that are looking at this more frequently, we wanted to be sure that the Mortality Review Board that they're doing a little bit more. They're doing this information. Why not get these doctors to check another box or to write a little bit more information down so that we can actually improve these outcomes, and that's what we want to do. we're happy to answer questions, I know we have some that are a little more familiar on this bill than we are because they deal with it frequently, and we can let them answer questions.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Any questions? Seeing none, any witnesses here to testify in support? Please be sure to fill out your witness form.
Do I need to fill that out prior to
No,
starting?
that's okay.
This is
Just-
the first
yeah,
time for
No,
me.
no, no, just make
Okay.
sure you leave one. Thank you.
Okay, and so I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Erica Dixon. I'm founder of the Mid-Missouri Black Doula Collective right down the road in Columbia, Missouri. We went through training not too long ago in an effort to help with our numbers, especially because we are so low in ranking as far as maternal mortality in the United States, and so really started our effort to help lower those numbers. And so I'm really honored and excited to be in the space to speak in support of the bill today. As we can see by our numbers, there's a lot more work to do. It invited me to look at intent versus impact, and I think the intent of establishing the board was very good, but as we can see, as our numbers increase over the years, we're not making the impact that we want to make. And so I think that this bill invites us to do that and be more intentional in our efforts by giving more detailed information, really digging in and seeing why our numbers are increasing. When you see the reports that the board put out, when it says 82% of our deaths could have been preventable, that's a lot. And so to also see how the numbers are disproportionately affecting Black women, it's a lot, and it should not be happening. And so what can we do to help that? We don't want to be known as ranking 43rd out of 50 in the United States for maternal mortality, especially just by with a little intention we could do better. And so just, you know, I know we see pregnancy and pregnancy-related things as a women's issue. I think it's an everyone issue. All of us are sitting in this space today by way of a woman's womb, and so really being more intentional about how we are treating the women in our state and really helping to moving ourselves to lower those numbers by being more intentional in our practice. So,
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none? Thank you. Anyone else here to testify in support?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good morning. I'm Dr. Nate Madden with the Health Forward Foundation out of Kansas City. I'm a policy impact strategist there. Every day we work to support powerful, strong, and healthy communities characterized by racial equity and economically just systems. I'm here today to testify in support of SBs 579 and 595. Particularly on the additional collection of data that will allow for disaggregation of along the lines of race, ethnicity, language, nationality, age, zip code, and level and timing of prenatal and postnatal care. We support these bills as they help to improve maternal and infant health outcomes, and they give health providers the tools needed to understand disparities outlined along those just read above. The real issue here is currently Black babies and mothers have higher mortality rates than their white and Latino counterparts. Also, rural women have less access to, with high-risk pregnancies, have less access to birthing facilities appropriate to that need of care. And disaggregating this data allows for legislation that can better connect mothers to prenatal care, appropriate birthing centers, and postpartum care as well. And there's a lot of research out there supporting this. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and Urban Institute put out a report on this. And also another benefit is when data is disaggregated along the lines outlined in these bills, it will allow better targeting of resources and the design and implementation of programs to seek out better outcomes for mothers and their new babies. And this will ensure a more efficient use of the resources available. Again, Health Forward stands in support of these bills to help Missouri mothers and their families lead healthy, meaningful, and productive lives. These bills, in addition to others being considered here in the Assembly, like extension of postpartum coverage, would add powerful tools in the toolboxes of health practitioners and keep working to make Missouri a strong place to raise a family. I'm happy to stand for any questions or provide any resources or information following the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Apologies that people are testifying against a symphony of background noises.
No problem.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anyone else here to testify in support? Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes? Seeing none, any closing remarks?
We realize that it's very late in the session to have a bill first being heard. And so what our hope is that if we can get this bill voted on and out of committee, it doesn't have, it's not controversial, it's bipartisan and certainly for the health of our moms, and we're hopeful that we can get it tacked on to some other bills. Once it comes out of committee, we can say we've had the full hearing. And
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the hearing on Senate Bills 579 and 595. Do you want to do executive? Yeah, do we want to do executive session today? Okay. I make a motion that we move in, and I know many of you are here for Senator McCreery's bill. We'll get to it in just one second, but I make a motion that we move into executive session. Do I have a second by Senator Williams? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. I make a motion that we bring Senate Bill 517 before the committee, and there is a Senate committee substitute. Do I have a second to bring the bill before committee? We have a second from Senator Williams. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. There is a Senate committee substitute, and this includes the bill that we just heard, which would designate Chris Sifford Day. I don't generally like to pass out bills the same day that we hear him, but I think that it's fairly non-controversial, and because it fits on the underlying bill, I'd ask for that grace. So, do I have a second to adopt the or any discussion?
Mm-hmm. I see that there's a change in the purpose. What was the original? Was it just related to Edith Cunnane Day?
Yeah, it just
Okay.
designated that day.
Okay, very good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Do I have a second to adopt the Senate committee substitute? Second. Senator Williams seconds it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We've adopted the Senate committee substitute. I now move that we vote the Senate committee substitute for Senate Bills 517 and 584 out due pass. Do I have a second? Second. Senator Williams, or Senator Carter may have beat him actually. All in favor say aye. Oh, no, just kidding. Any discussion? Seeing none. Please call the roll.
Arthur,
Aye.
Williams, Carter, Moon, Mosley.
By your vote of 5-0, the bill passes. I make a motion we move out of executive session. Do I have a second? Senator Carter. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll now take up Senate Bill 554 with Senator McCreery. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for hearing Senate Bill 554 today. It's a bill addressing our constituents' right to repair. I'm Senator Tracy McCreery, and I represent District 24 in St. Louis County. My simple goal is to make the repair market competitive. This bill is about property rights. What do I mean by that? Product owners should have the right to repair their own things or pick where they want them repaired. Our constituents deserve to be able to go to an independent repair facility of their choice. This bill is also about equal access. Your constituents should be able to get the same diagnostics, information, and parts as dealers. Things like manuals and circuit diagrams, for example. Parts and tools at a reasonable pricing to owners and third parties, like a mom and pop store that would like to open in a town near you. You may have heard about automobile right to repair. Those of us who own cars have had right to repair since Massachusetts passed a bill in 2012, and then a national memo of understanding was agreed to by the auto industry in support of independent repair, and that was signed in 2014. In fact, that automobile MOU was copied by commercial trucks in 2015 and has proven beneficial to our constituents without a negative impact on manufacturers. Today, you'll probably hear some interesting claims that right to repair may violate proprietary rights. That is not grounded in law. Manufacturers do not have any rights to control property beyond the sale. You may also hear that repair is illegal under copyright law. Again, not true. Copyright law says that repair is not an infringement on such law. What is happening is that some manufacturers remove our existing rights as product owners through deceptive contracts, and that must be addressed via state law, which is why I appreciate having the hearing this morning. So to summarize, what my bill does is it would require original equipment manufacturers to provide our constituents, also known as consumers, and independent repair businesses equal access to documentation, diagnostics, tool, parts, and firmware, just the same as they provide their authorized repair providers. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions? Senator Moon?
Thank you. Good morning, Senator. Thank you again for allowing me to horn in on the meeting this morning. I think you, that time answered some questions that I have, thanks to Mr. Cade and yourself. And I think you mentioned that I'm a tinkerer at best. I like to do my own repairs if possible. I don't have the latest technology, so I don't have a lot of the electronics that probably is at issue in some of these cases. So first of all, I'm grateful that you allowed me to be a part of that brief meeting this morning. It answered some of the questions. I'm sure I still have more. Perhaps as other witnesses come forward, that will answer even further, and the information that's been given does go toward that end. So I just want to say that I appreciate you letting me take that time.
Yeah.
And then as questions come up, I hope we can work together.
Yeah,
and
I would
find
love
those
that.
answers,
And
too.
again, similar to the hearing or the bill right before this, I know it's late in session. I just really appreciate the opportunity to have this hearing so that we can continue to have discussions.
Yeah, good.
But I come from a long line of tinkerers. My dad's a retired auto mechanic. I'm married to a retired mechanical engineer. This bill came from out of the frustration that my family members feel when they're trying to fix things on their own. You know, it used to be much easier. Like we have the tractors on our farm are old enough that, we don't have a lot of complexity in repairing them. But today, a lot of things are made intentionally so that people cannot repair their own things. For example, things are glued shut so that you can't open them, and if you open them, the thing just breaks, and that's intentional. And I know a lot of things end up being thrown away and discarded just because people can't repair them in an affordable manner. And I just don't think that's a good use of our constituents' money.
Yeah, I'm currently working on an air compressor. It's got the same thing, but I'm trying to work around it. I think I'm going to get there, but it's not there yet. But there are a lot of throwaway parts. And,
Yes, exactly.
And I'm not talking about the big things. When you get into tractors, they can be very expensive. And I understand proprietary information, but trying to work through where the middle of the road is. So
Right.
Thank you for helping me with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just a comment as well.
Senator Carter,
Very
yeah.
particular. Very interested in this bill. Thank you, Senator McCreery, for bringing it forward. I would too like to be a part of the evolution of this language. A similar situation. My husband. It's what we did as a small business. We had a repair shop and a part store, and he worked for several car dealerships before that. So, and now he works for a manufacturing company working on all of their equipment. So anyway, just super love fixing things. If my husband can't fix it, then I don't think it can be fixed. And so, anyway, thank you so much. Keep me posted.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, can I see a show of hands of who's here to testify in support? Can I see a show of hands of who's here to testify in opposition? Okay. We'll go back and forth. I'm not going to put a time limit, but we do need to wrap up by noon, so please keep your remarks brief. So first witness to testify in support, please come forward. Morning. Would you mind restating your name? I don't think we caught it. Sure. Thank you. Any questions? Senator Moon?
Good morning, Mr. Wilson. Thank you for your testimony. I am empathetic to your concerns here. There was a scenario passed on to my office recently that stated that there was a piece of farm equipment that was, because of a part needed, was put out of commission for a period of time. But over that, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks that it was out of commission, the crop had already been put up in the barn. Was that your situation?
No, that wasn't my situation.
Okay.
I lose money every time my machine.
Okay.
We have 4,000 acres, and I plant every acre myself, and I harvested 3,500 acres last year.
Okay. Good.
So our timeline is tight.
I just wanted to ensure I had the stories right and it wasn't you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please be sure to leave your witness form. First witness to testify in opposition.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you mind double checking that your microphone's on?
There we go. How
Thank
about
you.
that?
Perfect.
Okay. The irony is that in opposing this bill, that our industry is a leading example of one that supports customer self-repair. I emailed all of you members of the committee a third-party study that was conducted of our industry that looked at what the reality of the repair landscape is. And what you find is that, for instance, 56% of parts, national average, 56% of parts at a dealership, farm equipment dealership, are sold out the door. In other words, meaning that 56% of parts are not installed by the dealership. They're installed by an owner or an independent repair shop. Also, on average, a dealership sells to 9 different independent repair shops. In fact, the independent repair shop business model is built on piggybacking on the dealership's inventory of parts, which on average is about $1 million per location in the state of Missouri. And there's north of 150 locations. So if we support customer self-repair, and that's the reality, then why are we opposing this bill? Well, the bill itself, 2 reasons. One is price fixing. The bill, when you look at it, it specifically sets the price of parts at dealer net cost. So the manufacturer either has an obligation to sell those directly to consumers, which is a serious disruption of the traditional distribution model in our industry, or 2, it requires the dealer to sell parts at cost. Now you can imagine that is a huge part of our dealer's business. It'd be like asking a grocery store to sell groceries at cost. That just wouldn't work. Our dealers wouldn't stay in business very long if that were the case. The second issue, and the reason we oppose, is because of the access that it allows to security locks and security-related functions. It's unfettered access to copyrightable material that controls things like safety and emissions criteria. What you'll hear from our dealers to testify, and I don't want to take up too much time because I want them to explain to you what they do to support customer repair, what is available that they make for product offerings to support customers doing repairs themselves. However, there are parts of repairs, specifically around safety and emissions, that manufacturers are required by federal law not to disclose directly to customers. So they can't circumvent things like emissions criteria to chip or tune a tractor. So with that said, you've received our supporting material, and again, with the time, I'd rather yield to our dealers that are here.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Senator Moon?
Good morning. Thanks again for your testimony. You mentioned that dealer costs would be fixed and they would be required to sell at dealer cost. Can you point that out in the bill where that might be stated?
Yeah, so when under the definition of fair and reasonable, When they define that, there's 3 different factors that go into that. The number 1 factor is dealer net cost.
Yeah, I see that. Probably need to dig into that a little bit deeper and maybe ask some questions about it. Thanks for pointing that out, and I'll get some more questions later. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, please leave your witness form. Next witness to testify in support. Please remember to keep your comments as brief as possible. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Willie Cade. I'm a farm action local leader. I've given you my written testimony. I'll just address some questions. Number 1, the bill does not say sell at cost. That's just not accurate. Number 2, federal law requires, does not limit, but requires that any and all information to repair emission systems on this equipment be provided. And John Deere and the dealers are flagrantly violating that law. It's 42 USC 7521 M5. And in regulation, it's 40 CFR 1068 101B paragraph 6. What the previous witness was referring to was paragraph 1 of that same subsection of the regulation that said it's illegal to tamper with the emission system, which is correct, but it has no responsibility or bearing on the dealer. And contrary to that, the 6th paragraph of that subsection says that the information to repair those systems is required. And so I must admit I get frustrated in these hearings when I hear the same thing over and over again, that the companies are just following federal law. It's not true. I find that very disappointing that people would come in a public hearing like this and misrepresent the law. There are other myths that come up often. One of the myths is, oh, well, we've already provide all the information necessary. That's not true. They do not. There's a limited set that is provided to customers through Service Advisor with limited customer service availability as opposed to the dealer. The other issue is that they say that this is going to be a safety issue. I believe it's a safety issue because we don't have the right tools. And by the way, I can expand this into cell phones, I can expand it into refrigerators, I can expand it into cars. So this issue of right to repair is a very broad issue because of the control that it allows the manufacturer to have post-sale. And the analogy I like to use in this to really understand it is, if I buy a book from a publisher and I want to tear a page out, or if I want to highlight it, or if I want to fold a page over, the publisher of that document has no say-so on what I do with that. And if I cut my finger on the piece of paper, yes, that's a safety issue. And okay, I created that, but it's not on the publisher. You can expand that greatly into the world of all of these mechanical devices. With that, I will appreciate any questions if I can.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Senator Moon?
Thank you, Mr. Cade, for your testimony, too. I understand you have a famous grandfather.
I do. My grandfather was on the board of directors for 30 years. He ran the research and development arm of John Deere, and he was responsible for the development of the tractor for John Deere.
And his name was Theo?
Theo Brown.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to pose a question to you.
Sure.
In response to just a prior witness, and it may give him an opportunity later. We can talk later together. But I think I found what might be missing in that, and it could be my misinterpretation, but hopefully we can agree under the fair and reasonable terms. Under subsection C, it states that it can include also the price chart of other manufacturers for similar parts or products. So it sounds to me like there is some concession, some movement in that price there, so it's not actually fixed to a dealer cost necessarily. They can sorry, I'm not following the rules here either with the microphone. They can look at other costs that are charged by other dealers locally or otherwise, and they can adjust that so that there is some profit margin for them. And hopefully that makes sense, and we can talk more about that with the other witness too. But if you have a response, please.
Oh, absolutely. Dealers are a critical element in this ecosystem of the equipment. This bill is not going to make dealers go away. It didn't happen in automobiles. It's not going to happen here. The opportunity that we want is to be able to repair our stuff ourselves. Dealers are chronically short of technicians. We have farmers like Jared Wilson who are very bright, capable people. They could figure out how to do it themselves. Also, too, they know their own machines better than any technician ever would. And they can tell when things are going wrong, so they can repair this stuff. I remember when my grandfather first started introducing the notion of combustion engines into this products. No one knew about compression engine ratios. No one knew about a torque wrench, what to do. People learned it over time. Same thing is going to happen here in Missouri. I also want to point out that a recent study published yesterday by the Public Interest Research Group stated that in the state of Missouri, if right to repair just in agriculture was passed, it would save farmers $184 million a year. 54 million of that would be in reduced dealer charges, and the rest would be in regained yield that they were losing because they couldn't get their equipment fixed. So bottom line for me, this is a consumer bill to protect consumers' rights of ownership, but it's also about competition. What could be more American than to have a competitive marketplace? And right now, with the control of this software and the tools to fix, there's only one place you can go with a huge portion of repairs that are needed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Next witness in opposition. Please remember to leave your witness form and keep your remarks brief. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Sir, can you make sure your microphone's turned on? Thank you. Okay. Thank
Oh, now
you.
there it is. How about that? Better?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And then one of the big things for me is used equipment. We've been in business since 1907, and we build our business on reputation of trust and integrity with our customers. That's extremely important. And not knowing if that machine was taken out of specs and ran different because there's no way we can really tell that. It can be set back to those original specs, and it gets sold to the next customer, and we have issues with that customer because it is going to be that it's going to have wear and tear on it that shouldn't have happened. And I just don't know how I can legitimately represent used equipment. We sell these machines 10 times or more over to generations of customers. And I really, really am really concerned that's going to jeopardize our relationship with our customers. So parts, we talked a little bit about parts, and you heard the comments, but I will tell you this, that if there's no margin in parts for a dealer, we will be out of business. There's no question about it. And we can't afford to stock. Our company stocks $50 million of parts to take care of our customers so we have the part when they come in. If there's no margin in those parts, how are we going to be able to pay for the employees to take care of those parts, to have the facilities to do so, and the inventory costs associated with that? There's just no way possible. The other thing is, we talked a little bit about technicians, and you're 100% right. Everybody knows about workforce and be able to find technicians to work on equipment. We have that same issue. There's a lot of things going on in our industry to try to correct that. Our company has actually bought a building in Wentzville, Missouri. We hired 3 instructors, and we have our own training course where we're actually turning out technicians out of that in 10 months because we can concentrate it all down into one. We find that high school students, that's what they're looking for today to get on the job quick. They're not concerned about getting a degree and all that. So there is a lot of effort, but I will say that's why we support right to repair, because we don't have all the technicians available. So we talked about dealer consolidation. I mean, that came up, in competition. I can guarantee you competition is alive and well in our industry. There's plenty of other color John Deere dealers you can go to buy equipment, and there's plenty of other brands. You know, you hear about cutting locations. We have not, since we merged in 2020, we have not cut one location out. As a matter of fact, in our area of responsibility, we actually added 2. So there's plenty of places to get the equipment taken care of. I think that we are, because I hear this from customers, we are more competitive now than we were before because we have the resources and ability to maybe put more in equipment than we were individually. And also we have more locations to be able to disperse that used equipment. That's an advantage for our customers. We've been able to bring people on board that neither one of us could have did before to be able to support our customers. I go to a lot of our customer clinics, and I hear over and over, you know, we really didn't understand this merger. We didn't think that would maybe have a benefit to us, but now I really begin to see what you guys are able to do for us as the customers to make us more productive and more efficient because you have the resources and the people to be able to do that. And that's pretty powerful when I hear that. I already went through the diagnostic equipment. You all know that you heard, I think, earlier, the memorandum of understanding that was signed between John Deere and the American Farm Bureau. That was a big deal because now you have the manufacturers, you have the dealers, you have the Manufacturers Association, the Dealer Association, as well as the Farm Bureau, all supporting the efforts to allow customers to repair their own equipment or have any person that they choose to repair their equipment. And if a customer out there somewhere runs into a problem, there's plenty of places to turn to get help in getting that rectified. So I might also add our service advisor customers. That's our tool to take electronic diagnostic equipment. We have technicians that quit us, and other dealers have the same thing, and went out on their own to become independent service repair providers. They're competing against us, but we are providing to them all the equipment they need to take care of that equipment, as well as technical advice. And there's a shining example of it right here at the MoDOT garage in Jeff City. A technician that used to work for us is there, and a technician from Heritage is there, and they have all the electronic diagnostic equipment. If they get into a bind, they call us, we help them out.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up.
Okay.
Appreciate your testimony.
Yeah, that pretty much is it.
Any questions?
Other than, I'm really concerned that it's not just a dealer and a manufacturer thing. I think that in the end, this is going to have a dramatic effect on our customers as well.
Thank you.
And that's my concern.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next witness in support. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Moon, briefly.
Sir, since you mentioned margins, I want to just ask briefly. I asked the previous 2 questions to 2 witnesses prior about the fair and reasonable. And I found in the text of the bill that does allow some movement so that profitability can be there, because as a business you got to make money. So I'd like for you to address that. And secondly, you mentioned the fact that you are graduating some new technicians, which is good, but some testimony prior to you mentioned that that might not be the case, and there could be some tactics taken by dealers to actually purposely not help and then steal your employees away. Can you speak to either of those for me?
Yeah, well, first off, the technician issue, that's definitely not our intent. We try every call we get to take care of the customer. But I'm just saying, when we get into the busy season, because of the shortage of technicians, we might not be able to fulfill that. And that's why we are supportive of right to repair. And that's why the numbers are right. We've checked out our dealership. Way over 50% consistently every year of our parts are going across the counter. They're not going through our shop, so somebody's doing the repairs. On the parts issue, I'll just lay it out there. It is the largest source of revenue for our dealership, and for many dealerships, is coming from parts. We don't make a lot of money on the equipment, but that isn't because we have really high margins in our parts. We consistently, as long as I can remember being in the business, we run about a little less than 30% gross margin on our parts. I don't think that's excessive, but we sell a lot of them. That's what generates the revenue.
So this isn't the totality of all the objections to the bill, but if you can provide some language that would be acceptable here, I'm sure that we'd like to hear that. So, and I'm not going to speak for the bill sponsor, but I think that it looks like this language may be okay. So help me understand, if you will, outside this hearing, if you can, to where we might be able to get this where you can still be profitable, but still allow owners of these pieces of equipment to repair on their own.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Next witness to speak in support, we're going to limit testimony to probably a minute.
Why don't you do 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, Steve Carroll, registered lobbyist here on behalf of the Missouri Rural Crisis Center. Just want to go in record in support of this. When I'm not down here running around as an attorney or lobbyist, I'm a farmer, and I still own and operate a 2,000-acre family farm in northeast Missouri. And by golly, I love my John Deere tractor from Side and Stricker. I can tell you that. But I think this is just good public policy, and it may need to be tweaked somewhat. But the right to repair, I think it goes, I think, pretty close to 36 years ago, I passed the Farm Machinery Lemon Law. And I remember John Deere came up and testified against that bill. It was the first bill I ever passed down here, and it's still on the books today, and I think it works very well. So I'd just like to go on record testify in support of this bill.
Not quite 30 seconds, but almost.
All right.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone, any questions? Seeing none. Next witness to testify in opposition.
Good afternoon. I'm Travis Lynn. I'm the director of John Deere, actually Murphy Tractor and Equipment. I'm a John Deere dealer for the state of Missouri and Kansas and overlook those operations. We have roughly about 113 employees here working out of 2 locations in the state of Missouri. Time is short, so I just want to touch on a few things. There is a lot of stuff that we are doing as dealers to help the customer stay up and running, because we do understand, even on the construction side, when you're out building roads, you only have a certain amount of months to get it done. So we do a lot of things, and a couple things that we've talked about earlier. We talked about the software that we provide to customers, which we've been doing for over a decade. Missouri Department of Conservation is one of our current customers that still uses that software to keep themselves up and running. We have over 13 of those customers right now utilizing that. We also spend a lot of time prior to the heavy seasons or harvest season in the ag world or road building season in our world by providing manufacturer-backed training for customers in our facilities, the same training that our technicians use. So we do a lot of that. In fact, past March, we just had 4 sessions of week-long training, and over 120 customers attended to help prepare themselves for this upcoming season to do their own repairs. We are not as good as some of these other dealers, as they refer to as their parts. We only sell about 49% that walk out the door, but still it's a pretty good portion. I'm going to give one example in a short time here as it talks to about emissions, because when you start talking dollars, customers, that's important to them because it ties directly to them. So this just past week, we had worked on a machine that was traded in from a customer that we retail to another customer. And it was, I'll call it deleted. The emissions were deleted from the prior ownership group to a non-John Deere certified technician. They deleted it. For us to work on, or for us to resell those, we do bring them back to federal standards. $39,000 worth to get that tractor back. Now, that hurt both ends of the party, both parties. It hurt the trade-in value for them because we had to lower our trade-in value because we knew it was deleted emissions, and we had to tack that on to the selling price for the selling thing. So it does impact everybody on that.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up.
All right.
Thank
I'm
you.
just in opposition of this bill. Thank you. You got any
Appreciate it.
questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Next witness in support, any? Next witness in opposition. Please don't repeat testimony. Keep your remarks brief. We have a few extra minutes.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jacob Knable with the Missouri Corn Growers Association. We'd like to briefly go on record in opposition to this legislation. Although our organization is very much pro-right to repair, we feel that some of the measures in this bill cross over the line into right to modify more so, which the right to modify entails the right to change computer codes of a machine. The problem is if somebody who's not properly trained in this area were to go in and start making adjustments to the code, they can run the risk of possibly disabling key safety measures on that piece of equipment. Farming is already consistently ranked as one of the most hazardous careers out there, not just for the individual farming, but also for the family members who live on that farm and also help operate on that farm as well. Our fear is that ensuring the right to modify would only worsen the serious problem we already face in agriculture today. We'd like to applaud the efforts of John Deere and CNH Industrial for the steps they've taken outside of the legislative process in the private sector to go ahead and start addressing some accessibility issues that farmers face today. And we just ask that we allow them to work that out in the private sector outside of a legislative process.
Appreciate your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Next witness in opposition.
Get to the table, Madam Chair. Ray McCarty, President of Associated Industries Missouri, want to go on record in opposition to this bill for the same reason we have every year that it's been proposed, and that's because the right to repair already exists. This is the right to modify. It does allow anyone to have access to software that allows something to be modified and then reset so it looks like that modification never happened. If you happen to be a secondary consumer, like my parents always were, in the farm market, and you're having to buy used farm equipment, you may not like the fact that the previous owner may have run that tractor or whatever implement it is at a higher rate than it's supposed to be, and then that was reset so that even the dealer didn't know it, sold it to my parents, and then it would break down. So we see problems there. Safety concerns, and also I would ask you to consider why the state of Missouri would want to get into price fixing. I can understand countries like China getting into that, as was cited by the supporters, but certainly not the state of Missouri. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you for your testimony and questions. Seeing none. How many? Can I see a show of hands? How many more are here to testify in opposition? Okay. Next witness.
Good morning or afternoon, Madam Chair. Philip Arnzen with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We'd like to go on the record in opposition. We believe that this is a new business mandate that would try to require how businesses operate and what their policies are. Additionally, we believe this language could have some impact on their intellectual property and cause them to have to disclose some information that they may not feel comfortable disclosing. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you. Next witness in opposition. Are there any in support that I missed? Next witness in opposition. Seeing none. Next witness for informational purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members of the committee, Ben Travelis, Missouri Farm Bureau, here to go on record for informational purposes only. We do have member-adopted policy that supports right to repair. I've included this on my witness form. The reason I'm doing info only is because of the memorandum of understanding between American Farm Bureau, John Deere, and other manufacturers, and we're wanting to ground truth the MOU to see how it works on ground level. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none. Any other witnesses for any other purposes? Seeing none, that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 554. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?